There's a popular saying that the more you look, the less you see. But in Rose Namajunas' case, the more you get to know her, the less you believe what you see. Rose Namajunas has taken down every dominant fighter in the strawweight division. It's easy to underestimate her because of her calm looks, but inside that body lies a tigress that will stop at nothing to bring down its prey. Every champion has a story that tells the tales of their struggles to the top. But for Rose, it took more than those struggles. She broke boundaries she never knew she could break to become a champion not once, but twice. So join us as we tell the tales of Rose Namajunas' rise to UFC champion, but be sure to stick to the end where we relive the classic moments she fought her long, unforgettable enemy, Carla Esparza. Let's begin. Namajunas was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on June 29, 1992. Growing up in Milwaukee was really tough for Rose. She was a constant witness of violence and drug use from a young age. Her mother worked a lot and her brother was rarely home. Her neighborhood friends nicknamed her Thug Rose, due to the fact that she was the only white girl amongst them and was the smallest, yet acted tougher than any of them. Living in a violent neighborhood meant Little Miss Rose had to prepare for the worst. She began practicing Taekwondo at the age of 5, and at the age of 9, she earned her junior black belt. After that, she went on to practice both karate and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She attended Milwaukee High School where she was both a cross runner and a wrestler. But before she graduated, she started training in kickboxing and mixed martial arts with Duke Rufus at Rufus Sport Gym in Milwaukee. Namajunas began competing in MMA as an amateur in 2010. She trained under Greg Nelson at Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. She racked up a perfect amateur record of 4-0 with 2 wins by TKO and 2 by decision. With that awesome streak, she got her first contract as a pro MMA fighter under Invicta Fighting Championship. To tell you the truth, no one really cared or even knew who she was at the time. She faced Emily Kagan at Invicta FC4 Esparza vs. Hayat in January 2013. Kagan was already on a 2-fight win streak, so Namajunas was seen as just another hurdle for Kagan to render semi-lifeless inside the cage. But that was not the case. Thug Rose mastered Kagan's rhythm in the first 2 rounds and got the better of Kagan by catching her in a deadly rear naked choke. After going 1-1 in her next 2 fights under Invicta FC, she signed a contract with the UFC along with 10 other strawweight fighters to compete on season 20 of The Ultimate Fighter. At this time, the UFC had just added the strawweight division, so that season's winner would automatically be crowned the first ever UFC strawweight champion. Namajunas was the 4th pick by coach Gilbert Melendez. She fought her way to the finals of the tournament, a fight that not only changed her fighting game forever, but came back to haunt her 8 years later. She went up against Carla Esparza. That's right, the same woman she faced in May 2022 in what has been seen as the most disrespectful fights in the strawweight division. But we're coming to that shortly. Namajunas made her debut in the UFC against Carla Esparza on December 12, 2014. Fighting in the main event of the Ultimate Fighter 20 finale. Right from the start, we could tell it was going to be a war inside the octagon. At some point in the first round, Thug Rose seemed to be the better fighter after throwing successful spinning kicks at Esparza. But out of nowhere, Esparza got a takedown and attempted to end things early. Esparza went on to dominate the second round by taking the fight to the ground. She fought at her pace and Rose just seemed helpless for the most part. Finally, Esparza showed she was the better fighter that night by getting a rear naked choke submission win over Rose, becoming the inaugural UFC Women's Strawweight Champion. For Rose, losing that fight wasn't just about losing the belt or the paycheck. It was about losing her one-time chance of becoming the youngest UFC champion at the age of 22. But that didn't stop this little tigress. She was more than determined to get another title shot. She ran past Angela Hill and Paige Van Zandt in the space of a year, winning both fights by submission. After going 1-1 in 2016 against Carolina Kalovevich and Michelle Waterson, she was slated to face another fighter who had been defined as the epitome of success in women's MMA. That woman was none other than Joanna Jedrzejczyk. At the time, Joanna was riding the tides of dominance in MMA. She was 14-0 and presumably untouchable by anyone who dared defy her. The fight was for the title and Thug Rose was the underdog by a lot of margin. However, this type of fight makes us lovers of the sport because it was a complete upset. Thug Rose humbled Joanna Jedrzejczyk, plain and simple. After all the taunts at the face-off and trash talk from Jedrzejczyk during the media rounds, Thug Rose went into the octagon, stuck to her game plan, and executed one of the most brutal avalanche of punches you'll ever see in the UFC. From a straight left hand that dropped Joanna Jedrzejczyk in the first round, to a rapid fist to her head, the referee stepped in to call off the fight, making Rose Namajunas the new UFC strawweight champion and the first woman in history to defeat Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Oh, but Joanna Jedrzejczyk was far from going down just like that. 5 months later, in April 2017, a rematch was set for the title. There is nothing more dangerous than a fighter with nothing to lose. And that was the case of Joanna Jedrzejczyk in that rematch. Joanna Jedrzejczyk was ready to leave everything she had behind that night. But it was in that moment that the UFC and the entire world of MMA knew that Rose Namajunas was a force to reckon with. She went the distance with Joanna Jedrzejczyk, trading punch for punch and kick for kick. At the end of the 5th round, the judges scored the contest in the favor of Rose Namajunas, giving her a second victory over Joanna Jedrzejczyk and her first successful title defense. The first encounter between these two women was given the award for Fight of the Year and Upset of the Year by numerous sports media outlets. But in 2018, things got really dark for Namajunas. Her next title defense was against another brutal force in the strawweight division, and that's Jessica Andrade. On May 11th in 2019 at UFC 237, the UFC witnessed another upsetting victory, but this time it wasn't Rose Namajunas who got the win. Jessica Andrade ended Namajunas' short title reign via knockout in the 2nd round. She lost her title, and just like she always does, she came back stronger. But listen, the strawweight division was on fire during this time. It was packed with some of the deadliest female fighters we've seen in the division. That definitely included another fighter who set out to become the first UFC champion from China, Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili won the title from Jessica Andrade in her first title defense. So for a number 1 contenders fight, the UFC put Jessica Andrade against Rose Namajunas for a rematch. The match went down at Abu Dhabi on the 12th of July 2020, UFC 251. It was 3 rounds of pure unhinged war that had the entire arena on the edge of their seats. It was a hard call, but the judges rightfully scored the contest in favor of Rose Namajunas in a split decision. Next, Rose was set up once again to fight for the UFC gold. We've also decided to give you watching right now a golden opportunity. We've got a monthly shoutout contest for our subscribers where we give you the chance to earn a free shoutout in one of our videos. All you have to do is subscribe to our channel and comment "I subbed" in the comment section down below to enter this contest. And this month's winner goes to Owen Keller. We officially welcome you to our MMA family. And for you watching, just go subscribe and comment "I subbed" to get your free shout out next. On April 24th, 2021 at UFC 261, Rose Namajunas faced Zhang Weili for the UFC Strawweight Championship. Zhang Weili is one of the hardest hitters in the UFC, but what we witnessed that night was something unheard of. Thug Rose came in as the underdog to the fight. Just 1 minute into the first round, Namajunas landed a head kick to Weili that instantly sent her to the canvas. Rose then sprinted forward to end the fight with punches, but the referee stepped in to call it off. Weili was upset that the referee stepped in too early, but all that didn't matter anymore because Rose was ruled as a new UFC Women's Strawweight Champion. Zhang Weili obviously got her rematch at UFC 268. This time, it was another opportunity for Rose Namajunas to prove the world that she was the best strawweight alive. She won the fight via split decision and ended 2021 as the Female Fighter of the Year and 2021 Women's MVP. But 2022 brought the dreaded moment we all don't want to remember. She faced Carla Esparza, the first woman to ever defeat her in the UFC. We've seen how dominant Thug Rose gets in rematches, but this time it was nothing anyone expected. On the 7th of May 2022 at UFC 274, Rose Namajunas faced Carla Esparza after 8 years after their first encounter. To be honest, this fight was botched. It was worse than you can imagine. There was barely any action, any major contact between both women, and certainly nothing like their first encounter. It was so bad that some fans even call it the worst title fight in strawweight history. But there's always a winner, and this time, the winner was Carla Esparza via split decision. Rose Namajunas lost the title, and in her opinion, the judges scored the contest wrongly. Whether she won that fight or not, Rose Namajunas is still regarded as one of the best female fighters of all time. So the big question is, will we see a Namajunas vs Esparza 3? Make sure you check out this video showing on your screen right now. Bye and see you next time.